Hey, shalom, shalom from your Dutch Uncle John, here to tell you what it is in the Hebrew alphabet. Today we're doing the letter, before I tell you, it's the partner of Yod. Yod we did last time, and we said Yod was a hand. What letter would you guess partners with Yod? The answer is the very next letter, the 11th letter. It's the letter Kaph. And Kaph is the first letter that has one of those final forms, a Sophite form it's called. Here is the Yod, which is a hand, and the letter Kaph. Kaph, its picture is an open palm. Okay, there it is. You see it? Okay, or the final form is an open palm. Got it? Okay. So it's interesting, you've got two letters next to each other, Yod and Kaph, and each of them represent a hand. One is a closed hand, one is an open hand. Kaph makes the K, the hard C sound, the K sound. It's the Greek kappa, all right? And it's not a widely used letter. There's 11,960 of them in the Torah. A few words that will have Kaph in it, and it's interesting. Remember, I told you the shape of the letters have some meaning, and they help contribute to the meaning of the words in Hebrew. Very clever language. So these words are not necessarily going to begin with Kaph, but they're going to have a Kaph in it, and you will see them. One is the Tanakh. We've talked about Tanakh before. Remember what it is? The Tanakh is actually what the Jews call the Old Testament. Okay? The Jews, they don't have a New Testament. They only have the Old Testament. And they break that into three parts. They break it into the Torah. The Torah, you know, is the first 5 books of the Bible. The Nevi'im. The Nevi'im are the prophets. Okay? There are 7 major prophets, 12 minor prophets. Nevi is one prophet, Nevi'im, prophets. And finally, the Ketuvim. The Ketuvim are the writings. You're going to in the history, the Psalms, Proverbs, and you have Ruth and Ecclesiastes, Esther, Nehemiah, Chronicles. These all make up the Ketuvim. If you put all 3 of them together, the Torah, the Nevi'im, the Ketuvim, the T-N-K, Tanakh. Got it? And that's that. Okay, speaking of Ketuvim, notice the word Ketuvim begins with a Kaph. And it ends in a Yud Mem. Remember, the Yud Mem is a plural suffix on masculine words, which mean multiple. So you have Ketuvim, writings, plural. All right? We said Kaph was the 11th letter, and the Kaph is a letter. Kaph is also a word, and you spell Kaph, pay, and you would use the final form pay because it's the last letter of that word. And the word Kaph is the palm of your hand, or a small bowl or a spoon. Okay, that's the picture of a Kaph. All right, and those 2 letters, Kaph, pay. Kaph, we've already said, is an open hand. And remember, we haven't done the letter pay yet, but you may have heard it from previous videos. Pay, its picture is a mouth, right? And it has 2 forms, the closed mouth and the open mouth. So anytime you see the letter Kaph with the letter pay, you can expect a Kaph. All right. Note that the letter Kaph is not the letter Bet. Okay? There is a bit of a difference. I just want to alert you to that. All right? And we said that this Kaph is an open palm of your hand. I want to point out that not to confuse this with the Hamsa. I don't know if you've ever seen the Hamsa before. Anytime you're in the Middle East, Arabs and Jews both have this. It's this little hand thing, and it has an evil eye or something in the center. Okay, it's all over. In fact, almost every home has one. Not every home. They have them in every room. Okay, it's like to protect the room from evil spirits and the evil eye. They have them hanging and dingling and jingling. Okay, this is not the open palm of a Kaph. Okay, this is some pagan good luck charm or amulet. I am sure that Yahweh Elohim, God Almighty, hates these Hamsas. He warns and warns and warns the people in the Old Testament, in the Tanakh, about putting your faith in this crap. But every Jewish household has one, and probably most Arab ones too. Okay, the Kaph, which is the 11th letter, has a Gematria value of 20. Remember, the Gematrias go 1 through 10, and then they jump 20, 30, 40, 50. This is where that jumps, okay? So Kaph is valued at 20. Kaph is followed by Lamed, value 30. Notice that Kaph and Lamed next to each other, Kaph is the first letter that drops below the line, and it's followed by Lamed, which is the first letter that projects above the line. All right? Very nice. And I told you that the partners are Yod and Kaph. Yod, remember, was 10. Kaph is 20. There is connections between these two letters. Besides, they're both representing hand, right? One is a closed hand, one is the open hand. For example, the word Yod, the letter Yod is spelled Yod Vav Dalet. And if you put the Gematria values in to the spelled out word, Yod is 10, Vav is 6, Dalet is 4. The word Yod adds, the parts of the word Yod add up to 20. So it's showing numerically how the Yod and the Kaph are connected. And if you look in Numbers chapter 7, verse 86, it says, this is talking about the implements in the temple or the tabernacle. The 12 gold pans full of incense weighed 10 shekels apiece, according to the shekel of the sanctuary. All the gold of the pans weighed 120 shekels. This part in the center here where it says the 12 gold pans full of incense weighed 10 shekels apiece. That phrase where it says weighed 10 shekels apiece, in Hebrew it would look like this. It would have, there's a Kaph, and there's this word repeated, asarah. Asarah, asarah, Kaph. Asarah is the Hebrew word for 10, or asherah. And you have it listed twice because he's saying that there's 10 shekels apiece. In Hebrew they would write that 10, 10, and then Kaph. Kaph, we told you, was a small bowl or a spoon, right? So each of these little gold pans, each Kaph weighed asherah, 10. So here it's saying, here's how you would write it, 10 shekels apiece. Asherah, asherah, Kaph. Asherah is 10, Asherah is 10, and the word Kaph, its value is 20. So it's just kind of clever how God hid this little correct math equation in his Bible there with 10 and Kaph. The letter Kaph by itself, stuffed into a word or stuffed between words, it makes the K sound, but it means as or like. Okay, it was as cold as ice. In Hebrew, it was as cold ka ice. You put that, it's cold like ice. It was cold as ice. You hear it in certain people's names. In Daniel 10:13, it talks about, but the prince of the kingdom of Persia was withstanding me for 21 days. Then behold, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I had been left there with the kings of Persia. Michael is, in Hebrew, Mikael. Got it? Well, we know what is me. We've talked about this before. Me is who. El is God, Elohim. And Ka is like or as. Mikael. Who is like God. Isn't it nice how you can take these words that you've been hearing forever and tear them apart and find out very cool things about them? I like it. Okay. Here's a cool word that begins with a Kaph, and it has many applications to it, and that is the word kopher. The first time we see this is in Genesis 6:14, where God is telling Noah, make for yourself an ark of gopher wood. You shall make the ark with rooms, and shall cover it inside and out with pitch. Pitch is kopher. It's the only time in the Bible that this word is used to mean pitch, but it's a kopher here in this pitch is used to cover the ark. Okay? So there's the idea of a covering that comes with this kopher. In fact, we get the word cover from kopher. You can hear the F becomes a V. It's a covering, all right? So there it is in the Hebrew, kopher. That's the first use of kopher. Another use of kopher is in 1 Samuel 6:18, where kopher, it's only used once as this, but it's used to mean a village is a kopher. Okay? Here's the reference in the Hebrew. Okay, and now driving across Israel, you will see this word a lot. Here, we're coming up to a road sign. If we zoom in, you can see, what does it say there? Look at the way at the top. It's in, and by the way, all the road signs in Israel are in Hebrew, Arabic, and English. So we're going here to Kfar Kana. The first line at the top, you see the word kopher. Kafar. It's a kaf, a closed pay, and a resh. Kafar. Kafar means village, and I have friends who live here in Kana. This is Kfar Kana, and they'll drop the first K sound, so you'll hear them say, "Yeah, I live in Farkana." Farkana is Kfar Kana. And what do we know about Kana? Do you remember? You can see, look, the village name here is Kana. It's a Kaph, a Nun, and an Aleph. Kana. What happened in Kana? Anyone? Anyone? This is John chapter 2. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee, and Jesus' mother was there. And Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. This is the wedding of Cana. Right? This is where Jesus turns the water into wine. Happened here. Well, that village is here. Okay? By the way, this is a little side note. I know you like these. That when he turned the water to wine in Cana, remember it says that there were 6 empty stone water containers that were there, and he told them to fill them with water and then go and dip some of it out and taste it, and it was the best wine ever. So he took water, which was inorganic dead water, and he made it into wine, fermented, living. Okay, he brought life to this water. But notice there were 6 of these containers. What does 6 represent? 6 is the number of Man. So when you have 6 of these, it wasn't a coincidence. 6 represents stone, cold, empty vessels. That was the condition of mankind prior to the wedding. But when at the wedding, the water was, the containers were filled with water and given life. That's the beautiful picture. That Yeshua, Jesus, He is the creator. He can create life out of water. And He can bring new life to man. The stone cold empty. Okay? So, we've said Cana, Kfar Cana would be the village of Cana. Here's one. Look at the next one here. Kfar Nahum. You know Nahum. Nahum's one of the minor prophets in the Bible, in the Tanakh. And when you say Kfar Nahum, the F, remember the F sound in Hebrew is also can double as the P sound. So when it turned to English, Kfar Nahum became Kapar Nahum, Capernaum. You hear Capernaum thinking is a very New Testament name, and it's all through the New Testament. Yeah, it's Kfar Nahum, the village of the prophet Nahum. Okay, so one time this word kafar means pitch, a covering of black tar around the ark. And one time it's used to mean village. The other 15 uses in the Bible, kafar happens to mean ransom or atonement, okay? And this is the predominant meaning for it. Atonement is, and it usually gets the P sound, kapar, kapur, okay? You see the Kaph, the pei, and the resh. Proverbs 21:18, the wicked is a ransom for the righteous. There's that word kapar, kapur. You may have heard it if you have more than one kapur. If you have multiple, how do you pluralize a masculine word? You put a yud mem on the end. Kippurim. Okay? And that would be atonements. And Yom, we learned in the Yod video, Yom meant day. So Yom Kippurim, Yom HaKippurim, is the Day of Atonement. Okay? Yom Kippur, you may have heard of it. All right? Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the 7 Moedim, the 7 festivals, feasts that the Jews keep every year. This is the ultimate. This is the 6th Moed of all of them. This is the one where the high priest would bring 2 goats to the temple, and he would cast lots. And one of the goats would be considered the scapegoat, and he would press onto its head all the sins of the village and the town, and then they would send this goat out to Edom, to Mount Seir, to be killed, to die, so that the sins are gone. And the second goat would be the sacrificial goat, and this is the one where he would sacrifice it, take some of the blood, go into the temple, go behind the ark of behind the veil to the Ark of the Covenant, and he would pour the blood on the mercy seat, which sits on top of the Ark of the Covenant, and he would pour the blood there, and for an atonement for Israel's sins for the year. And then God would either accept or reject the sacrifice. Okay? But because it was a innocent lamb, God accepted their sacrifice and forgave the sins for the year. That happens on Yom Kippur, okay? Day of Atonement. And I told you, again, that this is a picture of a covering, right? God says, without the shedding of blood, there is no remission of sins. God looks down and He sees your sin. But if you have a blood sacrifice over your sin, God will not see, cannot see your sin. This is why the Jews had to do it with a lamb. God got tired of all the lambs and bulls being sacrificed, so God became the ultimate korban, the ultimate sacrifice, when he left his throne and came down and became our sacrifice. And if we claim the blood of Yeshua, God does not see our sins. Our sins are forgiven. We are washed white as snow. You see the picture? Very, very beautiful. Okay? Yom Kippur. You know, if you look back, Exodus 25, starting verse 17, this is talking about the Ark of the Covenant there, that furniture behind the veil in the temple. He says, "You shall make a mercy seat of pure gold, 2.5 cubits long and 1.5 cubits wide. You shall make 2 cherubim of gold, make them hammered work, and at the 2 ends of the mercy seat. Make 1 cherub at one end and 1 cherub at the other end. You shall make the cherubim of one piece with the mercy seat at its 2 ends. The cherubim shall have their wings spread upward, covering the mercy seat with their wings and facing one another. The faces of the cherubim are to be turned toward the mercy seat. You shall put the mercy seat on top of the ark, and in the ark you shall put the testimony which I will give you." Okay, inside the ark was the testimony, the 10 commandments. And there was a bowl of manna, and there was the rod that Aaron had that sprouted. Those are the 3 items, the contents of the Ark of the Covenant. But on top of the Ark of the Covenant is this mercy seat. Okay, so it's these 2 angels, their wings are aimed in at one another, they're looking down at the mercy seat. This is where God would sit when he comes to the temple. And it's there between those angels where the priest would pour that blood. Exodus 25:22 says, "There I will meet with you, and from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubim which are upon the ark of the testimony, I will speak to you about all that I will give you in commandment for the sons of Israel." So this is where God wants to meet. Not anybody can go in there. Only the high priest goes behind that veil, and it's only once a year, and it's on Yom Kippur. And you don't mess up. They would, the high priest, when he would go behind there, only the high priest was allowed to go behind there. So they would tie little bells on his robe and stuff, and then they would tie a rope around him, and he would go back. If he would accidentally touch the Ark of the Covenant, you're not allowed to touch the Ark of the Covenant. We saw that. It was an example. Somebody, the ark was about to fall, and the guy stopped it. As soon as he stopped it, he dropped dead. So there's a lot of things, you make mistakes, you're dead. And if you get killed back there, no one else is allowed to go back to get you, only the high priest. So they tied a rope around the high priest. This is what I'm told, that they could pull him out if he would screw up and bump something and die. Okay? Okay, so that's Yom Kippur. And we're talking here about the mercy seat. Well, that brings us to our next word. It's the Kapharet. The Kapharet is how you say mercy seat in Hebrew. In Exodus 25:20, and the cherubim are to have wings that spread upward, overshadowing the mercy seat, the Kapharet. The cherubim are to face one another, looking toward the Kapharet. Got it? There it is in the Hebrew. You can see it lit up. Now, this is a neat picture here of this mercy seat. And we have seen this before, especially the Christian community. Where have you seen this Kapharet mercy seat picture? In John chapter 20 of the New Testament, starting in verse 1. It was the first day of the week, and Mary Magdalene came early to the tomb while it was still dark, and saw that the stone had already been taken away from the tomb. So she ran and came to Simon Peter and to the other disciple whom Jesus loved, and said to them, "They have taken away the Lord out of my tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him." So Peter and the other disciple went forth, and they were going to the tomb, and the 2 were running together. And the other disciple ran faster than Peter, and came to the tomb first. And stooping and looking in, he saw the linen wrappings lying there, but he did not go in. And to Simon Peter, who also came following him, he entered the tomb, and he saw the linen wrappings lying there, and the face cloth which had been on his head, not lying with linen wrappings, but rolled up in a place by itself. Okay, so they go in and they see all this, the bloody clothes there between these two angels. Do you see the picture here? Verse 11, it says, "But Mary was standing outside the tomb weeping, and so as she wept, she stooped and looked into the tomb, and she saw two angels in white sitting, one at the head and one at the feet, where the body of Jesus had been lying." That's a picture inside the tomb. That's a picture of the Kaph, the mercy seat in the temple. And there you had to apply the blood of the sacrifice between the angels. The high priest had to do that, right, to have the sins forgiven. And here we have Jesus' bloody clothes right there between the angels on the mercy seat. Beautiful, beautiful picture. You know, while we're here, let's just go on and because there's a cool thing that happens. The angel said to Mary, this is verse 13, "Woman, why are you weeping?" And she said to them, "Because they have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him." When she said this, she turned around and she saw Yeshua standing there, and did not know that it was Yeshua. Yeshua said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking?" Supposing him to be the gardener, she said to him, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." And Yeshua Jesus said to her, "Mary." And she turned and said to him in Hebrew, "Rabboni," which means teacher. So she sees Jesus out and about in the garden, thinks he's the gardener. He's dressed in white linen, okay? By the way, where does he get these clothes? You know, where did the clothes that they buried him in, all those linen wrappings, they're all covered in blood, and they're sitting inside the tomb, right? So where are these new clothes that he has? Where'd they come from? Verse 17, Jesus said to her, "Stop clinging to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go to my brethren and say to them, I ascend to my Father and your Father, and my God and your God." And Mary Magdalene came, announcing to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord," and that he has said these things to her. Okay, you know, whenever the priest would have to do this ceremony once a year, where he would go in behind the veil and pour the blood, there was the laver. He first had to, well, first he did the sacrifice at the altar. Then he would have to go to the laver, and he would have to bathe and become clean. Then, once he was cleaned, no one was allowed to touch him. He would then go and put on these garments, clean garments, and then he would go in and do the blood on the mercy seat. So, it's kind of the same picture here. Yeshua, he's becoming our high priest. Yeshua had to have a cleaning. He did. He had his mikvah. He had a baptism in the Jordan River. So Jesus had the cleaning. And now Jesus had also the sacrifice. He was the sacrifice. Okay? And now, once he's had the sacrifice, and he's had the cleaning, and he has the clean robes, I believe that those two angels that are inside, I think they brought him the clean clothes. There's no way they're going to pack. No one, when they buried him, they weren't expecting him to come to life. They didn't leave a clean set of clothes. Not an Egyptian pharaoh, right? They didn't leave clothes in there for him in case he came to life. So the angels would have had to brought those clean clothes. So now he's got the clean clothes, and now Yeshua Jesus, he has to take that blood and apply it on the heavenly mercy seat. You know, everything on earth is just a copy, a pattern of the heavenly temple. So in the heavenly temple there is an ark, and there is a mercy seat. And I believe when Jesus says to her, "Stop clinging to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father," he still had to go up and apply his blood to the heavenly eternal mercy seat, right? That's a very, very beautiful, very cool picture how all this works. Okay, and at some point, I think that's where he went. He went up, applied the blood, and hours later, soon after, he shows up in the upper room where the disciples are. Okay. Now, we've talked about that these two cherubim that are on the mercy seat and are also in the tomb. It comes from the word cherub, which is karub in Hebrew, and it begins with a Kaph. It's the hard K sound. We soften it up with a cherub, but it's not. It's a karub. Okay? And if you want to pluralize it, you put the yud mem on the end. A cherub is one, cherubim, more than one angel. Okay? And we kind of get the idea maybe from the Sistine Chapel and Michelangelo and these cute little angels sitting around and little cutesy baby smiley. Angels are not this way. If you go back, the first time we see cherubim is whenever God drove out the man from the Garden of Eden, and he stationed cherubim on the east side of the Garden of Eden, along with a whirling sword of flame to guard the way to the tree of life. So these are not some cutesy little babies. These are powerful sword-holding, fire sword-holding guardians of the tree of life. You understand? Warriors. All right. Since we talked about kafar and village and covering and kippur, another word that you may have heard is a kippah. Before I tell you what it is, let's read 2 Samuel 15:30. It says, "But David continued up the Mount of Olives, weeping as he went. His head was covered, and he was walking barefoot. And all the people with him covered their heads and went up, weeping as they went." Okay, so we have something covered here. We have a head covered in this verse. In Jeremiah 14:3, it says, "The nobles send their servants for water. They go to the cisterns, but find no water. Their jars return empty. They are ashamed and humiliated, and they cover their heads." Again, covering of the head. Okay, there's enough clues. What is this word? It's Kaph, Pei, Hey. It's kippah. Kippah. Okay? And the Jews cover their head, the Jewish males. And the Jewish women also. Okay? Sometimes you'll hear it called a yarmulke, okay, or a skull cap. By the way, there is, in the Torah, we've talked about this, 613 commandments or laws or rules, correct? This is not one of them. There is no rule, no law in the Torah, in the Tanakh, that says you must keep your head covered. This is one of those that has become a tradition, and it's become such a tradition that it's become a law unto itself. I'm going to give you an example. I was visiting some Jewish friends once, and we were sitting in the dining room table. There was, I don't know, 8 or 10 of us, all the adults. One of the people there had brought her 2 sons, and the 2 sons were in the living room, and one of them was on the couch, and he had something in his hand, a stick or something, and he was bouncing on the couch, trying to touch the ceiling with whatever he had in his hand. Okay, now, he of course is a guest, right? His parents are guests in these people's home. And I'm looking out into the living room, and I see this kid bouncing on the sofa. And I kind of motion like he shouldn't be doing that. And the mother turned and saw him, and all of a sudden had a fit. She said, "Avi, put your kippah on." Everyone at the table, all the Gentiles, our mouths dropped open. That was the sin. Not that you were bouncing on our friend's sofa. No, that your kippah fell off. See, there's no rule in the Bible that says you can't bounce on somebody's sofa. And if they would read, there's no rule that says you have to keep your head covered. But they have these two examples. The main one is King David. Whenever Absalom died and he's going up the Mount of Olives and has his head covered, right? He's weeping and he's sad. And so they claim that they're keeping their head covered in mourning for the temple being destroyed or for whatever they're mourning, all right? But we got to be careful. What did God say? Which one? What do we have to keep? What do we not have to keep? He doesn't want us creating all these extra rules. Okay, another word that begins with a Kaph is the word ketubah. I don't know if you've seen my Revelation 1, 2, and 3 videos. I think they're the best content videos we've put out. But if you have time, take a look at those. But in 1, 2, and 3 of Revelation, it's all about the ketubah. A ketubah is the Jewish prenuptial agreement. And yes, they have one, okay? Every Jewish husband and wife, before they get married, they write a ketubah, okay? And a ketubah has 5 parts. It has, the first part is the combined family tree, family history. The second part is the bride's family tree. The third part is the groom's family tree. The fourth part is how the bride and groom met. And the fifth part are the groom and bride's and families' responsibilities in this marriage. Okay, as we said, everybody gets together and writes a ketubah before you get married. Well, the 5 parts of this ketubah can be moved beyond, and you can see that the Torah is God's ketubah with mankind. The Torah has 5 parts. It starts with Genesis. This is the combined family tree history of God. We were introduced to him in the beginning. God created the heavens and the earth. And then God said, let us make man in our own image. So we have man's beginning. We have God's introduced to him first. There's Genesis, combined history. In Exodus, you have the bride's family tree. The Jews are taken into slavery or become enslaved in Egypt. And they're going to be saved by their groom to be, right, God. Leviticus talks about the groom's family tree. This is where you get all the Levitical priesthood and all the rules for the priest. Yeshua, Jesus being the ultimate high priest, right? There's their bride and their groom. We have the Jewish people and we have God, Yahweh. In Bamidbar, Numbers, we learn how the bride and groom met. The groom had saved the Jews out of Egypt, and now they're wandering in the wilderness for 40 years, and they get to know each other. Okay? And then in Deuteronomy, Devarim, you have the groom and bride's responsibilities. Here's where he says, if you keep my rules and these laws, I will be your God. And if you don't, these are the punishments you're going to get. And I think it's Deuteronomy 28, he lists a whole bunch of them. Okay? And he tells them, choose life. I'm presenting before you today life and death. Choose life. So you see, the Torah is the ketubah between God and man. Very beautiful. And watch the Revelation again, 1, 2, and 3 for a much deeper understanding of that. You know, in Revelation chapter 5, verses 1 and 2, it says, I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll written inside and on the back, sealed up with 7 seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming in a loud voice, who is worthy to open the book and break its seals? So somebody is standing there with this ketubah in their hand. How do I know it's a ketubah? there's clues here. One, there's 7 seals. That's something to do with the 7 signatures that you need on a ketubah. But here, this is Yeshua Jesus, and he's got that ketubah. And they're wondering who is worthy to open it. How do we know, again, it's a ketubah? Look at Exodus 32:15. It says, when Moses turned and went down from the mountain with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hand. Tablets which were written on both sides. They were written on one side and the other. Notice, the ketubah is the paper that is being held in Revelation 5. It's written on the inside and on the back. That's one of the traits of a ketubah. It's written on both sides of the page. And when Moses came down, we always see him coming down with these tablets, and there's 5 rules on each tablet or something. No, there are this writing is on both sides of the stone tablets. Okay, it's showing it's a picture of a ketubah. Okay, another word that begins with a Kaph is Kislev. And Kislev is the month of the Hebrew Bible, or Hebrew calendar. It would be the 3rd month or the 9th month, depending on which calendar you're looking at. Kislev is Kaph, Samek, Lamed, Vav. Here's the original calendar that was in the beginning. God created the heavens and the earth on Tishri 1. Remember, Tishri 1 would have been on a Sunday that year that was created. But if that's the case, if Tishri is the 1st month, Kislev is the 3rd month. At some point, God made Nisan the 1st month, and when that happened, Tishri became the 7th, Kislev became the 9th month, and Kislev falls usually November, December, and Hanukkah is in Kislev, Kislev 25. In fact, Kislev 25, I have a video on the Sukkot, Jesus' birthday. Jesus is conceived, Jesus, the light of the world, is conceived on Hanukkah, the festival of lights. You can look into that, but it's true. Another word is the kotel, begins with a Kaph. Kotel, anyone? Anyone? Kotel means wall in Hebrew. And maybe you heard of the Maravi Kotel. Maravi is the western wall. This is in Jerusalem. This is right below the Temple Mount. You know, that is the Temple Mount. Right now on top of the Temple Mount you have 2 major structures. On the right you have the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It's a silver domed, it's not silver, it's like a lead domed grayish. You can see it on the right hand side of this picture. And on the left hand side you have the Dome of the Rock. The Dome of the Rock is this domed building that was built in the 600s. About 50 years ago, in the 1960s, the King of Jordan covered the dome with gold. And this is the Dome of the Rock. What rock? This is the rock that Abraham was told, take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and take him to the mountain that I show you and sacrifice him there as a burnt offering. That he took him to the Mount Moriah. This is Mount Moriah, and there is a rock underneath that dome, and that rock is the highest point on this hill. And they say that is where, now the Muslims say that that's where Ibrahim brought Ishmael, the first son. The Torah says this is where Abraham brought Yitzhak, Isaac, and the sacrifice took place on that rock. And the Muslims have built this Dome of the Rock over top of it. Okay? But you have these 2 buildings up on top. Down below is, you have a wall holding up this whole area. This is called the Temple Mount. This is where God's first temple, Solomon built up on top of here. It got destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians. Years later, Zerubbabel and Joshua, these new guys built a second temple up there. And it got destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD. And the Bible says a third temple is going to be up there. And that's the one Antichrist is going to go into and declare himself God, and a big mess will occur from that. But a third temple has to be built, and it can only be built up on top of this complex. The part down below is what we see here. This is a wall that holds up that. This is what they call the Western Wall. A lot of people, the Jews call it the kotel, the wall. Okay. A lot of people call it the Wailing Wall, because they see Jews there praying in their head, going back and forth, and then they're praying for their temple and they're praying for their Messiah, and they get into it so deeply, and it sometimes appears that they're weeping and wailing, but they're not. And don't call it the Wailing Wall. It's not the Wailing Wall. Call it the kotel. Call it the Western Wall. This is the closest place where the Jews can now get to where the temple was. The Arabs don't like the Jews up on top there. So sometimes Jews do go up, but I think Jews need to claim this back, and because a third temple is coming. All right, so there's some just various pictures of that. All right, Malachi 2:7. It says, "For the lips of a priest should preserve knowledge, and men should seek instruction from his mouth, for he is the messenger of the Lord of hosts." That word priest is Kohen. It's a Kaph, Hey, and a final noon. It's one of the noon sophit. So Kohen is a priest. There's a new word for you. And if you want more than one priest, it's the Kohanim. You put a yud mem on the end. All right? And you may have heard of the Kohen Gadol. The word Gadol means high. So the high priest, Kohen Gadol. Okay? We've seen this, by the way, if you're Jewish and watching, this is beautiful. Look at this. This is in Numbers 35:28. Bamidbar 35. It says, because we're talking about a manslayer, somebody accused of manslaughter. He, the manslayer, should have remained in his city of refuge until the death of the high priest. You know, if you accidentally kill somebody, and it's manslaughter, okay, and you are sentenced, what is your sentence? They had set up all over Israel, God set up cities of refuge. Your punishment is you must go to this city, and you, as long as you are in that city, you're free. No one may seek revenge, avenge the death of the person you killed. You are safe in that town. If you should leave the town and go wandering in the woods, and someone comes upon you and seeks revenge for you killing whoever you killed, they can kill you, all's fair. But as long as you stay in that city of refuge, you're safe. And you are safe in there until the death of the high priest. Whoever the high priest was for the entire Israel, when he died, his death atoned for your manslaughter. Once the high priest died, you are now free to leave the city of refuge and go back to your normal life. You see the nice picture there? You know, Jews will always bring up, well, God never called for human sacrifice. No, he did not. And if you go through, human sacrifice didn't occur. He stopped Abraham from sacrificing Isaac. Jesus, he made a point to say, not one of the sheep that God had given him died. You know, no one associated with Jesus or his ministry ever died. He saved all his followers. Jesus, though, Yeshua, who is God himself, incarnate, became flesh, he did become our Korban. He is God. No man had died. He was also a man, yes. But you understand? And in his death, Jesus is our high priest. He is the Kohen Gadol. And we become free because of his death. His death, his blood atones for our sins. It's a beautiful picture. And it is a picture that the death of a human atones, or the death of a righteous atones for the sins of the guilty. And here's another word that begins with a Kaph, and it's a rather important one. You probably hear it a lot. Any guesses? The word is ken. Ken means yes. We can see the eye. There it is. Yes means. Ken means yes. We can see the eye. Yes, 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 yes. Ken means yes. And the opposite is no. Lo means no. Ken and lo. It's interesting, when I go to Israel, when you're from America, you expect yes and no. And when you're over there, you don't hear yes and no, but you do hear this a lot. You'll hear ken and lo a lot in conversation. So just attune your ear to be listening for that. The word Canaan, where God promised Abraham this land of Canaan he's going to give them. Okay, Canaan is a Kaph, Nun, Ayin, final Nun. It begins with a Kaph. We said that the Kaph is an open hand, right? And look at Exodus 22. This is the Ten Commandments, right? I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You know, as we're doing each of these videos, each time we're learning to read a verse. Today I thought we would try to learn to read this one. Okay, let's look at the first line. I am the Lord your God. The word I is Anoki. Anoki, I. Sometimes you'll see Ani. Ani is also I, and it's a more common used A-N-I, more commonly used. Okay? But Anoki, I. Then you have Yahweh, Yud-He, Vav-He, Lord. I am the Lord. Next word is Eloheku. This is, you can see Elohim, okay, but Eloheka. It ends with a final Kaph. Now look at this. Remember we talked about Yod, and Yod we said was mine, right? If you had a word that ended in a Yod, it meant my, because Yod is a fist. Remember we used the example of Psalm 22. My God, Eli, Eli. El is God, put a Yod on the end. It's my God with a Yod. If you put a Kaph on the end, what is Kaph? Kaph is an open palm. Look, here I'm opening my hand right here. And if I put it out to you, look, you can see that is the letter Kaph right there, right? That's the final form Kaph. And that means your. So when you say Eloheka, Eloheka means your God. Make sense? If you put the Yod on the end, it's mine. If you put the Kaph on the end, it's yours. Closed hand, mine. Open hand, yours. That's a very clever way of showing possessive. I am the Lord your God who brought you out. Who? We've seen this word before. It's Asher. We see it in when Moses talks to the burning bush. They're going to ask, what is your name? And the bush answers, Ehyah, Asher, Ehyah. I am who I am. Assure is who or what or that. Okay? I am that I am. Who brought you out. The word for brought you, it's a big word. I don't know what this word is here. Hotzateka. Hotzateka, notice, ends in a Kaph. A Kaph Sophit. That Kaph at the end is to brought you. Remember again, anytime it ends with a Kaph, that's your or you. Okay? From the land. The word land is aretz. If you put a mem in front of a word like this, mem is the prefix for from. So ma'aretz is from the land. And Egypt is Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim, Egypt. Got it? And notice Mitzrayim has a mem sophit. It begins with a mem and it ends with a mem. And there's two different mems, right? One's the final form. From the house. Well, we know house is bet. And again, you put a mem in front of it, it's from mabet. From the house. Obedim. Obedim, whatever Obedim is, it ends in im, so it's plural. So we just want to know, what is Obed? Obed means a servant. Okay, a bondage, slavery, servant. You've heard Obed before. There's a prophet in the Old Testament, Obadiah. Obadiah, a servant of Yah. Okay. In Arabic, they have, you've heard of Abdullah. Abdullah is a Muslim name. Abd Allah. Allah. It's a servant of Allah. Abdullah. Abdullah. Okay. So now you can read the whole Exodus 22. Anoki, Yahweh, Eloheka, Ashur, Hotzateka, that's a mouthful, Hotzateka, Ma'aretz Mitzrayim, Mabet Obedim. And you know all those words now. It's kind of cool, isn't it? Here's another one. Look at this. This is Deuteronomy 6:5. Deuteronomy 6:5 follows the Shema. Okay? The Shema, remember, Hear, O Israel, the Lord, our God, the Lord is one. The next verse is, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. There's lots of yours in this one, so I want you you can read this one. You shall love, Aleph Tav, Yahweh Eloheka. Eloheka, you see it? It's your God. With Bakal Laveka. Laveka. Lev is heart. Laveka is your heart. Next is Nefesheka. Nefesh is soul. Nefesheka, it has a Kaph on the end, your soul. Okay? Ma'ad, strength. Ma'adeka, your strength. Very clever. To make something possessive your, you put a Kaph on the end. If you want to make it our, look at the Shema. Hear, O Israel, Shema Israel, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. If you put the Enu on the end of a word, it means our. So here's the your with the Kaph on the end. There's 4 of them in this Deuteronomy 6:5. The Enu we've seen before, Genesis 1:26. God said, let us make man in our image, Betzomenu, according to our likeness, Kidmatenu. There's the our. Okay? All right. Okay, So that's going to conclude the Kaph. Thank you so much for watching. Hey, listen, if you're enjoying these, please send them out. Send them to your friends. Get people watching these, okay? Because it's just, we're all going to be speaking Hebrew in the end. Let's start learning, okay? To God be the glory. To God be the honor. To God be the praise. And we will see you back with our next letter. And we have a little bonus today. So God bless. Bye-bye. Okay, now we're back with our bonus. I told you that the Kaph means as or like. Okay, so we have that here, Kaph, as. And if you remember way at the beginning of one of our first videos, we had the word bara. It's the second word in the Bible. Bara means create. Or create, it means create from nothing, actually, right? Bara. There was nothing, poof, something. Only God in the Bible baras. Okay, this verb is saved just for him. Because he's the only one who can do it. Create from nothing. And we've told you that Aleph is God's letter, right? Aleph represents God, Aleph. So if we put these three together, bara, that would be kind of like God creates, all right? God, bara, creates. And Kaph is just the K sound, as. Dabar is speak, words, speak. We get the word Debarim. Debarim, Deuteronomy, comes from Debar. It's the plural of Debar. And again, an Aleph at the end, Aleph is God. So this little phrase, it's not actually Hebrew because Aleph is not the Hebrew word for God, but it represents God. But you could pronounce this out as bara, ka, dabar, ah. And what you'd be inferring is God creates as God speaks. And isn't that the truth? If God opens his mouth and says, be light, boom, light be, right? God creates the heavens and the earth. He opens his mouth, speaks it, it happens. Very nice. And so you can pronounce this out, bara, ka, dabara. God creates as God speaks. Abracadabra. God bless. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.